Okay, what's going on? If you guys can hear me in the chat, just let me know. Let me know if you guys can see a screen if people do start coming onto this. If not, this will just be a recorded session just breaking down uh, what we put in the Telegram, what played out, and what we're starting to see. So I'm going to let it kind of load up here. It's not even 12. And then we'll see what we got going here. Let me check a few things. So just trying to get the live settings down for live trading, and then also just for recaps and mindset calls. So let's see what we got going here. Let's see what you guys can see really quick. Just trying to get the live settings down for live trading, and then also just for recaps and mindset calls. So let's see what we got going here. See what you guys can see really quick. So we'll go back and we'll see how the quality is. But the first thing I just kind of want to talk about today when it comes to NQ is going to be what we talked about on Telegram. Okay, so like what we talked about on Telegram in the breakdown, right? So we'll go back and we'll see how the quality is. What we talked about here in the market outlook. So every day in my Telegram, I put a market outlook just to kind of give an idea of like an if-then statement. If price does this, then it could do this. Um, and so what you're seeing here is what we were looking for. I was looking for, we were consolidated in price before the open. I wanted to see if possibly that low of day, as you can see right there, would have held, right, the initial balance, and then we could have reaccumulated to go higher. So essentially that's what we did, right? We had a bullish continuation day. So I'm going to move it to this just really quick. Um, we had that bullish continuation day. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of getting used to this again still. And so middle screen, right? Let's try this. Okay, so middle screen here. Okay, so we had a bullish continuation day. So what we were wanting to see was if price was going to hold this low of day, which it ended up doing, right? Prices just stayed inside the initial balance and then continued higher. Or if we were going to, first break down at New York and slip that low of day and then see a higher time frame demand buy off those 500s. So when you look at like this level here, I like to look at the candles that stack, right? So I'm looking at down candles and with up moves and etc. But these certain specific candles that you'll see that we look for really set the framework for the charts, okay? And so one thing I want to talk about today was this candle here, right? We had this demand candle that was set. Now, what was really, pretty about this candle was how it all lined up on the 4 hour as well, right? The 4 hour was set pretty nice from the previous day. So we had that Friday. I'm going to bring that in here really quick. We had that Friday price, right, where we had the massive fall, right? January 2nd, right? Massive fall. So that was about 750 down to 300, over 300 plus points, right? And a fall. And then we've gradually made our way up in the market open. And then we've started to just kind of build our way into today. So I'll kind of break down exactly what we were seeing in that situation. But when we seen this 1 hour was set, and you're looking at pre-New York, right? So you're looking at start a new one. Oh, okay, wow. Okay, so when you're looking at, and I gotta redo this, sorry. When you're looking at pre-New York, which would have been here, why does it do that each time? Hold on. Make sure I'm set on this one. Okay, so pre-New York would have been, we were looking at was this, okay? So what we were wanting to see is that there was two options. Price was either going to hold inside that demand candle at the 25,600 level, or price was going to slip below the low of day, reaching into this demand candle here, 25,500, to then continue higher. Because for us, we've been stacking on the daily, right, in 4 hours and showing that bullish continuation. So when you look at it like this is what we were looking at going into the day, is that we've respected that 25,600 demand level on higher time frame, and everything is fractal when it comes to trading. And then we've started to make our way up since then and continue that bullish run. So we were anticipating, like I said, prices to either stay inside this initial balance and continue higher, or like I said, just kind of slip that low. So going over the New York position where we actually had, where we actually took our position today, I'll kind of go over that here really quickly as well. Let me see here. Okay, so in New York, it was a little choppy in my perspective compared to like a normal day that we're looking for. But if you have your direction down and you have an understanding of like where you're wanting to go, I think it was relatively pretty easy. Now, when you go and you look at like a 5 minute and a 1 minute, that's where we're really going to put our focus on, because that's where I made my executions on today. Now, in the first 5 minutes of New York, they ran the price up, right? So sometimes in those first 5 minutes of the actual session, they're going to manipulate on the price, okay? And so that first 5 minutes, right, as you can see right here, right, they ran that price up, creating what? A new high on day, because this was the high on day, was currently 25,674, somewhere in that area. And so in that first minute, right, they ran price from 630, what is that, 635s up to the 75s, like 71s area, right? Just making that new little pierce higher. And to me, that's a sign of strength. That's price showing willingness to go higher. And so when you've seen the pullback into this area now, where I didn't buy it right here, I bought it like right here. But when you see them pull back into the area now, where I hesitated a little bit today, I would say on that 1 minute, was when price was in my zone down in here, right? So 841 to 42, it started to show me the signs that I like to see on a 1 minute inside of a 5 minute location. And then I just kind of had waited right when price started to peak above the New York Open and ended up entering like right here at the London Open, so 647s, and then I put my risk 20 handles down below that. So the initial move actually looked like, let me see if this is what I can see here. YouTube control panel. select stream to get started. I just want to make sure. Okay, so the actual framework of the move looked like this. Okay, so I ended up entering right here at this level at a 20-point risk, which was right in here, right, like right below that New York. And then I was looking for a 1 to 3 setup, right? So looking left, seeing if price was going to go back above another area that we were looking for and had identified, which was the previous day high, right? So that getting from where I entered to, you know, the target that I had that I wanted to be able to trail risk or secure the bag, also was in alignment with higher time frame liquidity, right? Being that previous day high. And so that was a really beautiful move right there. Just to go from there to there, I mean, you're risking, like I said, 20 handles for, let me see here, 20 handles for a little bit over 60 for the 1 to 3. Now, I ended up being able to work this move up until the 5 minutes started to show weakness. So I ended up moving this up to, like up in here, the 725s where I ended up trailing my risk. And then when price finally broke down, it came back for that area and took me out for a small win on the day. But what I really wanted to show from this perspective today is just understanding like the higher time frame bias, right? As long as you have those 1 hour, like if you're looking in the right place, like as long as those 1 hour demands were holding, it didn't really have a reason for it to go lower. And then when you bring over the other assets that we trade, right, like right at the open, we immediately seen, you know, YM out the gate take off. We've seen ES out the gate take off, right? And so it just kind of showed me that we had more signs and willingness to go higher as long as the demands were holding. Now, you can look at it however you want, perspective-wise, but like for me, I seen this as like a dump area and an area of demand for YM. And then I seen the very similar for ES, right? That overnight, you know, candle takes the new low, makes a new low on day, right? So that's going to be a new low on day. And then price started to gradually build going into New York. And then we had the continuation through the high of day on the ES and the previous day high. So the comparative strength is really also the key, right? Understand that the markets were just overall bullish today, I think was a major key, okay? And let me see if I have these here. Dun, dun, dun. Put this here, sorry. And then I would go into, you know, what I kind of see going forward here as well is, you know, obviously we've seen the new high on YM, US 30, whatever you're trading. We've seen that extension here when it comes to ES, right? And I still think we can make our way higher up to 7,000 whole level, which would be like the target. And then as you can see here on on NQ, we've held not only the H1 demand, right? Because I want to kind of just show that, but that's also when you look on a higher time frame perspective, you're inside the H4 demand, right? Because what I'm focused on now is the bodies of the candles in the closing areas, right? Wicks is the commercial price, and then the bodies is the retail trader and majority of price. And so when you look at how this demand set, coming back below New York Open, and then the pullback in the second half of the day, which I'm going to go over as well, and basically shorts who shorted in an area that's not really a true area of shorts, why you've seen the covering inside the demand on the H4. So everything from a higher time frame perspective is aligning to where, you know, comparative strength analysis, higher time frame supply demand, as well as I want to bring over QQQ, right? So QQQ kind of gives you some really good direction as well. We were looking for price to deliver through these double tops here, the 622s, like 623 whole levels. Still kind of close there, I would say, but the likelihood still looks pretty good when you're looking at like this perspective here to get through that level throughout today or the rest of this week. So all those confluences aligning really helped out with the overall bias. And then I'd say just really understanding the demand on the play. Okay, so give me 1 second again here. See if I can see anything on here. So yeah, I didn't want to make this too long of a video or anything like that. Just kind of wanted to go over what we've seen in that beginning pop up. And then when we come back here to 15 and 5 on the pullback on the second part of the day, just kind of get an understanding of what we're seeing and like how I look at things is once price, right? Price had made that massive rally up. So you've seen a price go from New York Open all the way up here, right? Which ended up going 650 to 750. That's a little bit over 100 handles, okay? And so you went up 100 handles. Now, individuals who get stuck, they don't understand where they're at on the charts. So like what they end up doing is they see it start to build like somewhere like this up in here. They don't realize that they're at the high of the day, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy off like this demand area on like 1 minute time frames to then see price go higher and then they get drained. So what we ended up noticing is when we took this buy position at, let's say, 650s, and price came up, made that first falter, right, 905 to 910, and then 910 to 915 was the key moment of the day of price action for me, because as soon as I will go over this over time, our trade management rules, but as soon as I got this 5 minute engulfing candle here, right, I was able to take the risk that I originally had moved to break even and then ended up moving it to the 725s as soon as it starts showing signs of strength and willingness to go higher. So there's certain things we'll talk about and why we move our risk, and why we will stay break even or why we'll move our risk based on candle confirmations. And so that was really nice to see that candle confirmation, to get that. Now what I ended up noticing is that a lot of people just play what they can see. I also like to watch like things like Top Step, etc. And those individuals were trying to buy, like I said, inside this area like this. And what I was noticing was the shorts were going to come in because people like myself, buyers, right, we weren't getting that extension through the 800s. And when you start seeing take profits, you start to see sell orders fill. Right now, where most people start to sell is at breakouts. So they sell an area like this, right, putting their risk either like here or like inside the supply. That's like a normal area for people to get in. And so what I seen here was like, let's just say I didn't have the buy position, right? Let's say I only had I had missed that buy and was waiting on a short, and this is the position that I had. Well, if I had went short here, there's only two options or two scenarios that can happen. Like one, I would have shorted right in here at this break, right? So I would have looked at something more like this, right, with about a 20 handle risk, right? So somewhere in between there and there with like a 20 handle, right? Now, as price moved in my favor and broke structure, right, because that's actually a break of structure here, and then price starts to rip lower, what I would have been looking for on this is price to reach back to New York Open, right? Price to potentially go back into the demand, right? And then to start to cover that position, because as you can see, price came right into the imbalance on the 15, the 5 minute demand trap candle right here at 25,650, and you start to see what? Individuals who were short start to cover. How do we know that? Because we're looking at that higher time frame, right? H1. Oops. Snaps, of course. This is when I was so we're looking at that higher time frame H1, and we know we're still inside demand. So everyone that shorted from 25,750, right, if they're not getting the break lower, if that makes sense, right, then this line graph area here, then essentially price is still bullish, right? And so what I started noticing was that individuals started to short as it was already falling, which was too late. Then they get recovered. Then they try to buy this back, if that makes sense. But they're just not looking at the higher time frame. That's all it is, okay? And so what I like to see in these types of situations, and I kind of wish, like I said, that I was long in this situation, but I had already made the bag that I needed to make today. But when you really look at this, like I said, and you find this short here, you're looking for, like I said, two things to happen. Price to deliver that New York Open again, and price to deliver the buyer's liquidity, right? Because if you bought New York Open here, price runs up, price comes back down, but never comes back down to your original stop loss, you could have shaved some of this buy off above 750, left your initial entry, like say you're doing a 2 contract system, you get up here, you've trailed one to here, you still got your original entry with the risk at the low, price comes back, never even comes back to New York Open, then starts to build its way back up. You could either add into that trade, right, when it came back into the initial balance, or you could just leave what you had, wait for candle confirmations here at 1105, and then took the remainder and went break even and started to trail it as down candles started to present themselves in an uptrending market. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but that's pretty much what I was seeing today. Is if you caught that buy up, nice buy on the way up, right, good area to see a little bit of topple, right in here in these 750s, and then to UTAD it, right, up thrust after a distribution, again giving you a trailed risk to where you're securing, depending on your entry, securing at least 70 to 80 handles in that situation, which is pretty good. And then to kind of follow up on what we're seeing going into the end of the day, I do want to just talk about that here really quickly, is higher pricing, right? We want to see higher pricing out of all these up into these levels that you see here. So last week, if you noticed on Friday the 2nd, right, we ended up coming up, taking that high from the 30th, just literally winking that area and then death. And that was one of our best shorts that we've had down to the 25,500, 25,450 level, and then ended up taking that low, and that was a beautiful take profit. So going forward, going into Wednesday, tomorrow, I'm still anticipating that we're gonna come for this Friday the 2nd high, and then once we actually come for that area, my eyes are set on the 25,937s, and then I've been talking about these since December the 12th. I believe it was a Friday, or maybe it was the 11th here. But the 11th or 12th of December, when they left this double top on the higher time frame. So we'll see what we do once we clear this 800 level. What happens when we clear the 900 level, the 950 level, and then see if we can make our way back up to 26,000 whole level. But looking at today, I will say, let me go back to here, 1 hour 15 and 5. I will say that this price action is held very bullish and in alignment with our bias that was dropped into the Telegram. So we'll see how this quality looks. We'll see how the sound looks once I'm done with this video, and then be on the lookout for the Discord to be dropping for individuals, and as well the live sessions. I'm trying to look and see if Mondays or Fridays are going to be the better day. I'm going to say for sure Fridays we're going to be live. But yeah, so with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching this quick breakdown, just kind of understanding. I hope it makes sense when we're talking about the higher time frame NQ, and just understanding over time as you grow with us here at Omni Profit Capital, just understanding supply, demand, and where to look. Right, I had a individual tell me when I first started, the real teachers, they don't tell you what to see, they show you where to look. So we'll see if we can continue doing that the rest of the week. But that being said, appreciate you guys, and let me know if there's something that needs to change. Thank you.